This is the M5 iPad Pro, and I've got lots of thoughts. Right, we've now got an M5 chip in the iPad Pro, which means if you've got an M2 iPad Pro or an M4 iPad Pro or an M1 iPad Pro, you may as well just throw them in the bin. Only joking, that's ridiculous. That is the problem. I've just instigated Siri. Brilliant. Stop. That is the problem with iPad Pros and buying them and using them and certainly reviewing them, because ever since the first one in 2015, which I bought because I'm an iPad person, it's just been so ridiculously powerful. And Apple keeps saying, look, this is now basically a laptop. It's got they're not even saying that. They're saying it's got desktop class performance. They've been saying that since the M1 version. And it's true. These are the most powerful, I think, tablets on the planet. And I still think they're the best tablets on the planet. However, whenever a new one comes out, I think, what do we do with it? If you're not a graphics artist or a video editor or someone who uses their iPad really intensely for music production, what do you do with this thing? And it makes reviewing them quite tricky, but it's quite a nice problem to have. So in this video, I thought I'd focus firstly on the people that I think Apple is targeting with the M5 iPad Pro, which is the people who have M1 versions of the iPad Pro. If you've got that, you may be thinking about this, and there are some compelling reasons to make that upgrade. Then I'll talk about my personal challenge with the iPad Pro, but the potential solution that I have for that. Let's get into it. So how much faster is the M5 iPad Pro than the M1 iPad Pro? I have some numbers here, which is very unusual for me. So Apple is saying that 3D rendering tasks can be up to 6.7 times faster, and AI tasks can be up to 5.6 times faster. There's more memory, there's faster video transcoding, and obviously the CPU is quicker and etc. GPU, that's a lot quicker, etc. It's basically a very serious upgrade from the M1 version. So if you use your iPad Pro for video editing, for graphics work, for illustration, for music production, going from the M1 to the M5 is a serious upgrade. And if that stuff is linked to you making money, so if that's your job, it's a really good investment. That's kind of what Apple is saying in not so many words, and I agree with that. I think it makes total sense. The M1 came out quite a long time ago. You're probably getting to the point now where you're thinking, should I make the switch? And the fact we now have the M5 version, I think, means you should. When it comes to normal use, so browsing the web, email, Slack, the normal kind of things that you might do with a laptop but you're doing on an iPad, will it feel any different to the M1 version? Probably not, to be honest. And again, that comes down to the iPad being so capable and the Apple silicon inside it being so headroomy, for want of a better phrase. It's just, I've never used an iPad, particularly an iPad Pro, that feels sluggish. They're just buttery smooth. So if you're going from the M1 to the M5 and you're expecting a smoother experience, that probably isn't going to be the case. Oh, and AI performance, I can't comment on that because I don't do AI stuff. I use ChatGPT and that sort of stuff occasionally, but I don't do anything beyond that. So if you're really getting into AI, and you've got an M1 iPad Pro, just get this, because this does have a much better neural engine and it's built for Apple Intelligence and the AI world that we now live in. So again, that is a big update. However, there are some other interesting changes between the M1 and the M5 that have taken place in the last 4 years, and they could be equally as tempting. If you want to get the most from your new iPad, whether that be for work or creative stuff, ESR has you covered for the M5 era. Starting with my personal favourite, the Shift keyboard case, which has a detachable keyboard that carries on working detached. That means you can type wirelessly from pretty much anywhere with a Bluetooth range of up to 32 feet. Plus, all of the viewing angles are covered from 20 degrees, which is perfect for sketching, all the way through to 75 degrees, which is great for taking video calls. The trackpad is fantastic as well. It's edge-to-edge, super smooth, and supports all of the multi-touch gestures, so navigation feels much more intuitive and familiar. With the new M5 iPad Pro, iPadOS 26 and this Shift keyboard case, we're pretty much at the point now where the iPad feels like a laptop replacement. Yes, I just said that. To keep that very expensive iPad screen protected, ESR also has the UltraFit Armorite screen protector, which is ready to go and super easy to install with their two-step tray application system. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. This includes a dust strip that removes all of the annoying bubbles and the dust that you normally get when you put one of these things on. Plus, it's built with 7 times the impact absorption compared to generic screen protectors, which is hard to say, but trust me, it's very tough. If you want to deck out your new iPad, maximize your productivity, and keep it protected, check the link below. The first and the most obvious change is the thinness. So if you go from the M1 to the M5 iPad Pro, you will not believe how much thinner and lighter this thing is. I don't have the M1 iPad Pro here, but I do have the M2 iPad Pro, which is basically the same thing. So that is the M2 iPad Pro, the 13-inch version. This is the 13-inch M5 iPad Pro. And just from that very simple comparison there, you can see that it is incredibly thinner and lighter. The weight difference is quite significant. Does this matter? I think it does. I don't think it's just thinness for thinness sake, which has been the case in the past, to be honest. I think for the iPad, it makes a lot of sense. I think the thinner this thing can get, the more portable it is, which sounds weird, but it's true. It's lighter as well, which means it's lighter in your backpack. If you're worried about the bendability of this, I wouldn't worry. I don't think we've had any bend gate things with the M4 iPad Pro, which is where this design first came in. So I wouldn't worry about that at all, particularly if you're putting it into a keyboard case that protects it even further. The innovation, the work that has gone into this to make this so thin, yet still have all of that desktop class power inside is just mesmerizing. It's Apple at its best, and it does make a difference. Also, if you go from the M1 to the M5 iPad Pro, you get the OLED display, the tandem OLED display, as Apple calls it. I won't try and explain what that means. It's just a very clever implementation of OLED technology into the iPad Pro. Once again, it makes a big difference. Richer blacks, better contrast. It's just a much richer experience overall. And you can, if you've got the money for it, go for the nano texture display, which I have on this one here. To give you an idea of what that does, if I show you a comparison, so this is the non-nano texture version here, which is very fingerprinty, but as you can see, very reflective as well. This one, the nano texture, isn't. It's much less reflective, and it just looks better. I've used a couple of these nano texture iPads now, and I love the matte finish it gives it. And I guess, again, if you're a graphics artist or someone who relies on the screen for that reason, having a nano texture display would make a lot of sense, as it would if you tend to work in very bright environments a lot. If you work outside a lot, then this makes total sense. So that's a big upgrade as well, as is the Apple Pencil compatibility. So if you go from the M1 to the M5 iPad Pro, you get access to the Apple Pencil Pro, which is the best Apple Pencil Apple has ever made. Trust me. Okay, M4 to M5 iPad Pro, that's an upgrade path that no one is taking, obviously, but if you're thinking about buying an iPad Pro this year, the fact that we now have the M5 version means the M4 version is a bit cheaper. It still has the same thin design, it's still got the Apple Pencil Pro compatibility. It's quite a tempting proposition. However, we should take into account some of the differences between the M5 and the M4 version, because there's some interesting stuff in here. So, according to Apple, the M5 version has 1.5 times faster 3D rendering, 3.5 times faster AI performance, and 30% more memory bandwidth, which is quite a lot. It also has faster charging, so it gets to 50% in 30 minutes. There's a new N1 chip for Bluetooth and Thread connectivity, and there's a C1X modem, which offers 50% faster cellular connectivity. So if any of that stuff matters to you, again, if you use your iPad Pro for intense creative work, or you need additional memory bandwidth, you might need better cellular connectivity, the M5 iPad Pro probably makes more sense. It's newer, it's got that increased performance, and again, if that stuff relates to you earning money or just your enjoyment of doing creative stuff on your iPad Pro, I'd get this one. Fun fact as well, the M5 iPad Pro technically at the moment has a more capable and a newer chip than the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. There's no M5 Mac Pro. In fact, there's no M5 16-inch MacBook Pro either. So if you want to feel like you've got the most, the newest Apple thing ever, again, that's a silly reason to buy it, but you get the point. Anyway, on to my iPad problem and the potential solution. Right, real talk, as the kids say. Let's try and do this without any edits. The problem that I have with the iPad Pro is that I feel a little bit insignificant, a little bit insufficient for it. Put away the violin, please, but if you've bought an iPad Pro and you feel the same as me with this, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's basically the fact that this thing is so capable, so powerful, and Apple keeps telling me what it can do and the performance increases, and they show all these amazing demos on their website of people putting this to use. And I just sit there and think, I can't do any of that. You know, I'm not an illustrator, I don't work with graphics, I do very little video editing these days, but my video editing has always been very simple, so even that doesn't put it to task. What can I do with this thing? And then on a flight to France recently, I was playing around with the iPad, the M4 iPad Pro, and I was using Logic Pro and noodling away and making some sounds and loops and stuff. I realized that that is possibly the way that I can add some meaningful feedback to my coverage of the iPad. That's the one thing that I've been worried about over the last year or so, is that my coverage of the iPad is a bit kind of, here it is, here are the specs, off you go. You know, I'd much rather do something more meaningful than that. And without boring you with the backstory, because I've talked about it quite a bit in previous videos, I have a huge love for music production. Since about the age of 12, I've made music purely for my own enjoyment, although for the last 10 years I haven't done that because of business, life, work, kids, all that stuff, and I want to get back into it. I am going to get back into it and build it into this business and make a lot of content around it, which I'm very excited about, and most of that will revolve around the Mac. However, that trip to Paris reminded me that the iPad Pro combined with Logic Pro is such a creative tool musically. So I think that is going to be my route forward with the iPad Pro. However, I'd love to hear from you. What do you want me to do with this stuff? These devices are just so capable. They're almost too capable. And you need value from me in terms of reviewing them and doing ongoing content about them. So get involved in the comments, please, guys. As always, that is where the magic happens for these videos. And let me know what you think I should do with this iPad Pro. And equally, if you're getting the M5 version, or you're getting the M4 version, or you're sticking with your trusty M1 iPad Pro, let me know what you do. Get involved and tell me what you do with your iPad Pro. Give me some inspiration, please. It makes a big difference. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, you know what to do. Give the video a thumbs up and a like and all that stuff. I'll see you down below because there's a lot to talk about.